Refuge worldwide.
Refuge worldwide.
Refuge worldwide.
Hello, everybody. This is Post again. I'm Peter Kirn, here with Verónica Mota. And we have a CTM special episode for you, kind of CTM warm-up, because that's what we're excited about at the moment. Verónica is co-hosting the MusicMakers Hacklab with me, and I'm really excited to see your debut, unless you were secretly playing Berghain with Säule without me knowing it, in Säule on the 2nd of February. Welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. It's a total pleasure to be here. And yeah, this is a very beautiful journey. And I'm very thankful to CTM for inviting me. No, I haven't played in Säule yet. So I'm very
We're
excited.
really excited, yeah. You know, I mean, this is the fun thing, right, about CTM to me. People know these spaces for one kind of particular thing, but I think the great thing about venues, about any venue, is that you get different people and crowds and different artists in, and the place can really transform and become something new. So this is why I wind up camping out in all of our venues during CTM Festival. I mean, apart from doing the work that we do, boy, it's really a lot of fun to go out and take in a bunch of music. So
I totally agree.
You will see me there. If anybody wants to meet us in person, we will be easy to find during CTM. Just look at the CTM calendar, and that's where we'll be. So, tell me what you brought with you this morning. I see an Ableton set. I don't know where we want to start today.
Well, yes, that's correct. I was thinking to present to you one of the potential tracks that I'm going to play at Berghain. But also I brought different samples of the music that I am currently doing, because often I get asked, like, what kind of music do you do? And the thing is that I operate in very tentacular way, so I do different kind of things. And I was thinking the best thing to present what people that have done the Hacklab like to present the complexity of what we do as musicians, as song artists. And so I brought different samples, also tracks from my coming album as Verónica Mota, which is like more song art, experimental based music. But I also have an EBM track, industrial kind of techno track. Also, I brought some critical GABA. And I'm very conscious about why I say critical, because in the GABA context, there has been also the fascist culture going on, for instance, in Spain and Holland. So for me, it's very important to say we do GABA from a critical perspective, which means no neo-fascism.
Sounds good. Where shall we? Oh, I should say, the track that we opened with comes from our friend Brian, Afro Rack. That's his track African Drum Machine off his self-titled debut. I think the LP is self-titled. Go listen to that. Brian is also a alumnus, among many other things that Brian's done, an alumnus of the MusicMakers Hacklab. I think he was in 2019. And he is coming back and doing a bunch of stuff for CTM Festival too. Veronica and I have to miss some of it because we're going to be busy doing Hacklab, but if I think there might still be spots. He's doing a DIY workshop over the canal from us here in Altreptow at Workish Berlin on Tuesday the 31st, making electronics. Brian's making tons of his own modules and electronics in Uganda. You might have seen his video series on this. And he's doing 2 collaborations also, I think the first weekend of CTM. So another place you can find us. We'll definitely be in the audience for that. So that I really love this LP that he did. So it's great polyrhythmic stuff. So we needed a transition. But so with that out of the way, what do you want to play first, Veronica?
Well, I have unreleased track from my side project, Espectra Negra. It is called The Potential of Technology. And this is a track that I haven't released, and I plan to release in the new album and also to play it at Berghain. And the beauty of this track is basically that there was a call from Soma Scenes, I think they are from Russia, if I am correct. They produced their own scenes and they became very important. This is pre-war times, of course. And there was this call for people who wanted to produce a track using samples from these Soma synthesizers. And I just download the samples, I join the force, and I produce a track. And I'm going to play it to you.
Soma, I should say, they're now in Armenia.
So, nice. Nice that you tell me that.
Yeah, no, there's a cluster of, I would say, anti-war synthesizer manufacturers who have gathered in Dilijan, Armenia. And I think this year as that war continues and falls out of some of the headlines. Sad. It's we have to. I hope that we keep talking about what we can do, and I think it's not necessary for Ukrainian people to feel any obligation to talk to Russians, but having as an American having relationships with some of those folks, I hope it's something that we talk about what we can do and really put our energy into effective activism against the war.
And I think like the CTM is also doing a lot of collectivity work and anti-war work, and for me it has been an opportunity to show that how the democracy can operate, and that even if we are different, that we can work together and make things happen. And for me that's the reason why I love also CTM, because it's an opportunity to come together and to overcome these discourses of hate. And so let's play the track. Maybe?
Yeah, let's play the track. Sorry. I just gave us a nice. That was a pause to let everybody absorb the track. Yeah, I love that, and it's really great that you add text to your performance and text to the tracks. I think that's it's easy to be safe and not do that, but sometimes it's so nice to hear a message.
Absolutely. In my case, like for me, text is fundamental. And I think like something that has been happening recently is that we do not have a lot of messages. I come from the punk generation, and for us was fundamental to have a message. And when you listen to different music, which is fine to have different kinds of music, but a problem that I see recently is that people are not telling stories, and that people are not politicizing the scene with a clear message or taking a position about, a clear position about, for me, I always express, for me it's fundamental to say no neo-fascism or, for democracy, the power of community, post-gender politics and all these things, not in the sense of creating propaganda or so, but I think it's very important to send a message and to realize that politics are not over,
Yeah.
And at the moment, one of the problems in neoliberalism is that people are not telling stories, new stories, radical stories. And for me, it's very important to do that. Also to criticize technology and to say like technology is fantastic, but it can be also used for tyranny,
Yeah.
and these issues someone has to talk about it. There are other people doing it, but for me it's fundamental to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful track. What else have you got for us here?
Oh, I let me see what I can play you now. I can play you another track also that I am thinking to play at Berghain. This is called the Jericho Rose. And this has a beautiful background, a recent background. I was having in Sylvester, New Year's Eve, I met some of my gay friends, and this gay friend of mine, he's Protestant, very beautiful person, also from the fetish corner, and he showed me this Jericho rose. I didn't know what it was. I love the name, but he showed me this plant that comes from Israel, and he told me the story, and we did the ritual. And it's basically that you have this plant, this kind of desertic, and this plant has the characteristicum that it can, when there is no water, it just dries and becomes little, like a little ball. But when you put in it water again, it can live for for decades or centuries sometimes, But as soon as you put water again, it opens up again, and it becomes to life. And for me, that's a wonderful metaphor for what we are experiencing at the moment, which is to be resilient. So in this sense, I made a track for that because I was very touched by the metaphor of we dry, we feel little, we don't have the water that we need, but once we do, we come back to life. And I made a track for that.
All right, let's hear.
Jericho Rose.
Oh yeah, I love that. I hope people I hope people have their headphones on, some headphones with some bass extension, so they got to meditate inside that one. That was great.
Thank you so much. As I say, this is related to the metaphor resilience. So be resilient and don't give up.
What else have you brought us? I want to hear more music already.
Oh, you want to hear more music?
We can talk a little bit about the Hack Lab. So
Yeah,
you
let's
were
do that.
you were a participant in this program. This will be now 10 years since we've been doing it.
Congratulations.
I really feel grateful to our family at CTM Festival for their support over that time, and it's been a great set of relationships. Not only what the gonna get weepy here. Not only what the festival gives us, and not only the chance to work together, but I mean it's just been a great group of people. To work with.
I completely agree. My experience has been incredibly positive, and I think one of the I'm going to just tell you from my perspective how it was, so you people in the audience can really apply for it, because it's a very beautiful journey. In my case, I did apply as a song artist without knowing anyone really, which for me I'm very proud also, because I got selected by the quality of my work. And then once and this is also great because CTM gets hundreds of applicants, and it's a privilege to be selected. But then the process of creating the Hack Lab, the journey of jumping into the unknown and creating collectively a piece that you don't know what the piece is going to look like. So it's a challenge also as an artist to get out of the comfort zone, because normally you are collaborating with your people, your instruments, you have your studio, but the Hack Lab is a place of experimentation, and it's a place of developing things together as the journey goes. And it's very colorful. You start also operating and getting to know people from different countries. It's international. There is a lot, in my experience, a lot of the last year, queer people, women, female identified, very diverse, people of color, and different continents. I found that fantastic. Then our presentation, it was a challenge, and I find as an artist it's important to be challenged, and we were challenged. But the result of this challenge was a lot of beauty. You get to know a lot of new people. You develop out of it different further connections. That for me, that's also the most beautiful gift of CTM, of the Hack Lab in particular, which is after that, it's not like you go to a project, a residency, you are there and then goodbye. No, these things keep developing, and you because you get to know the people. And then you develop new connections, and then the community expands. So for me, it's incredibly efficient and incredibly beautiful. I can only recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and people should come and check it out. We will
absolutely.
We will start on the Friday, the 30th of January, with an inputs program in the afternoon at Silent Green, and we'll have, in addition to Veronica's performance at Säule on the Thursday night, you can come see this year's Hack Lab group on Sunday, the 5th of February at 4 p.m. in Hout 2. And so what will happen there, we really have no idea, because it's an entirely new group of people. Yeah. They'll have a week to work together and collaborate with each other. They don't know what they're going to do yet, and everybody will meet, and somehow performances will evolve out of this process.
It's a beautiful process. It's really, really challenging, beautiful. Come along and support the people. And you can also have a look how the pieces come. Every year, I think, is a different result that you reach, because you have always different people bringing different practices also. That's also important to mention. That is incredibly, you have different perspectives on how to produce music. You have people doing video, doing different practices, video, artificial intelligence, working with artificial intelligence, coding. You have people doing body art performance. performance. You have some people that are also working theoretically. So it's fascinating to see how you produce together.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I'm excited for this year, too. The sequence of events, too. In 2020, we had a really enormous group, really international group. And then, of course, that was February 2020, right before everything shut down. 2021, Olivia Jack, who is a miracle worker, came in and did an all virtual edition. I was just going back and looking at the film that we made of this, and it's now with a little distance, I really enjoyed it because we shot it in this basement space at Silent Green, and it's now, at the time it was kind of a struggle, but now looking back and the work that Olivia did, it's really there's something beautiful about seeing this kind of giant empty room because everybody was virtual.
Wow, that was during the pandemic.
Yeah. So 2022, kind of, we were back to normal. The festival had to be rescheduled. It was kind of truncated to sort of half of its usual, or not to say 3/4 of its usual length, fewer venues and things. And the Hacklab was an all local edition. This is the first year that we again opened up applications internationally. So I'm really excited to start this year. And if anybody's listening and sort of got rejected or has even gotten rejected multiple times, I felt at the beginning of 2020 like the time was right to look for ways to expand this process and kind of this approach outside of just the festival. And I feel more optimistic about that again in 2023 and excited that hopefully we get to do that again. So that's my New Year's resolution for this year, is to continue this energy past just the 5th of February. Have you got more music for us to listen to?
Of course. I'm going to jump now to my coming new album. As I say, I operate as in different projects. One project is Espectra Negra, with which I'm going to play in Berghain. But I have also my project as Verónica Mota, more like official sound art. And I want to show one of the tracks that I have produced. And for me, every track has a story. And as I said, like, storytelling and new narratives are very important for me. So also every track has also like, it's a kind of a biographical journey, no? Like I save moments in my life. When I look back in time, I say, this track was made during this, and I some kind of keep fragments of my personal story also in my music. And for instance, this is a track from my coming album called Nihil. Nihil, it means like the nothing, no? And it's again, I work a lot with existentialism and the meaning of life and mysticism sometimes, as you hear with the Jericho Rose track. There is a lot of ritualistic aspects coming on as well. I like ritualistic music, and that's why for me, when you mentioned this project from Uganda, it's, for me, it's incredibly beautiful that CTM is also bringing the Afro diaspora to the program. Fantastic, no? Anyway, this track, it's called Death, Time and Eternity, and the history behind it is that last year I had a very good friend of mine that I met here in Berlin. She's Australian, and she got cancer last year. And I got the news. I mean, we met in Berlin. We were friends. We were going to Berghain, to Tresor together for a long period of time. It was a huge group of LGBTQ people hanging out together. She was, artists, people there were visual artists, musicians, porno directors and things. And we had a lot of fun. Then she moved to London, and then she moved back to Australia, and I stay here in Berlin. The story is that I get the news that she got cancer, and the stage of her cancer was already incredibly advanced. So to make the story short, she died a couple of months later. And me from Berlin, I had the experience of being a companion for a person that is very dear to me, and that was dealing with cancer. And I had also the chat with one of our best friends who, because in Australia euthanasia is legal, and that's the path she chose. She chose the injection, and she, and I was very touched by the situation of the other pandemic going on around the world, which is cancer. So I, in my grieving, I produce this track. Yeah, so music is really like the way to process emotions, the way to express our love, our grieving, our anger. Without music, I don't know what I will do. For me, it's
Yeah.
incredibly fundamental.
Yeah. Yeah, it really can. It really can be a deeply healing space when other things are not. I mean, we say that a lot, but yeah, I do still feel that. That means also that it's so important to create these musical environments that are safe environments and supportive environments for that kind of expression. Even if it's at odds with other people's criticism or the kind of demands of the industry that this sometimes lives in.
No, I totally agree with you because I think we need spaces in which we are in contact with other human beings. Even though, I mean, we are not photocopies, and sometimes we don't like people or sometimes people don't like us. But that's not like the rule, and it's healthy that it is that way because we are different, And again, back to the Hacklab experience that I had this complex experience in which I had everything. But I also had, for me, what was fundamental was after a long pandemic and after being caught in my flat with my son, in my case, it was very painful. And then suddenly, slowly, having this platform where I could meet people, talk to them, interact, discuss, it was beautiful because we need people. We cannot just live in this individualistic cube. As a little fragment. No, we need other people. Otherwise, it's hell.
Well, you've been part of other festivals and other events, right? Sometimes you go to, there are different levels of engagement that you get from the team and the people working on a festival. So there are some that you go and the curators might be, they may be invested, but they're not there all the time, right? You don't see them at the end of the night. I feel pretty grateful that everybody from the social media team that we work with, or the people working on tickets, and up to the curators, that how many people at CTM you see really until the early hours in the morning, right? There's been a lot of events where we stayed out until 7:00 to hear the last set of the morning, and took a nap for an hour and a shower, and then we're ready for discourse programs at noon, right? Yeah. I mean, we have to go a little easy. Where a lot of us are, everybody's recovering from the challenge, sort of health challenges of the last few years. But as far as dedication, yeah, I mean, people are there really around the clock.
And that's how you build community, getting to know the people, listening to the people, supporting the people. That's how we build up community. There's no other way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do feel really grateful for the times that we get to spend together. It's really meaningful, and especially because we know that they won't last forever. So you have some more sounds for us.
I could play something more powerful.
I should say also hi back to the chat, and Constante. If those of you who don't know, if you go to refugeworldwide.com, if you're listening to us live, talk to us. If you're listening to this later, you can find me a lot of times on the breakfast or lunch show, because I often turn Refuge Worldwide on while I'm doing other things, so you can talk to me then. But if you're live, it's at refugeworldwide.com/chat. There's a login which allows you to say what your name is. Otherwise, you can type it in. But I've got a screen here. We're watching you. Oh, and hi to No Plastic.
Hello, No Plastic.
From through the window.
So I play now Cyber Wars Between Hegemonies.
Wait, say it again. Cyber Wars Between
Hegemonies? I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
I love the title. I just wanted to get that
yes,
in the
it's
microphone.
very important because we are at the time in which technology is used against each other.
Absolutely.
We know that. And that's why also for me the title of the songs, even if sometimes the song has not lyrics, it has the title, and I always make a statement because I research technology, philosophy of technology as well, the goods and the bads, and in the in-betweens. So let's play cyber wars between hegemonies. So that's gonna be for our GABA gremlins jumping around in Berghain.
Can't wait. Yeah, we've done that before. We did that with this. Well, I can't remember what year that was, but there was a real traditional GABA night, which means also bringing in all the kind of strange.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that we did it, right? I'm glad that we kind of brought in the sort of traditional GABA sound, but then some of it is just blatantly offensive, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it's a total provocation.
Yeah. I mean, with like 2 Live Crew samples and things.
Nice.
Which for me is amusing, having grown up with the 2 Live Crew. But maybe not normally kind of like politically the sort of message that we usually inject into CTM Festival now. But we got a good workout when we did when there was the proper GABA night, and Dutch friends showed up, and there was they wore their bounciest sneakers, and there was just a ridiculous amount of bouncing in the main room, and it was a nice blasphemous night in the church. That was great.
Congratulations for that.
But you talked a little bit about critical GABA. So what was your approach here? Because that also reminds me, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of GABA modus operandi, and that, of course, artists from Indonesia are going to have a critical approach to GABA because it's Dutch.
Of course. The thing is that I had some conversations with a friend of mine from Spain. He's from Catalonia. He's Catalan, and we were talking about the history of GABA. And I know Holland. It's like the main land that has exported excellent GABA. There was all these rapes going on in the 80s, 90s, and we were talking about it, and he, from his Catalan perspective, he was describing how GABA was imported into Spain, and how it developed in a very neo-fascist kind of, So you had a lot of characters in these GABA clubs and these GABA nights, and you had a lot of neo-Nazis dancing there, taking a lot of, drugs and things. But the problem of that was that they were really incredibly violent. So skinheads with the GABA type of style, and just beating up people of color and things like that. And that was a fascinating, for me, a fascinating story to listen to, because I was not aware of that, to be honest. And we were talking about it, and he was saying, like, in Holland, it was not that obvious, but you also had some kind of people that were also in the direction of, right politics. And so he was like, I am a bit critical about GABA. And I love GABA music personally, but I'm not an expert in the area. And then I was, for me, after reflecting this conversation, I decided, like, okay, what do you do when you have a scene? And that's this history of music, often for the punk scene as well. And the Oi skins, there was the Oi radical leftist skins, and they got copied by the neo-fascist, people. And then you have the neo-facho skins that stole from the underground. That happens too. But what do? Well, we resist. We say, like, okay, this is critical GABA. It is possible to politicize music. It is possible to reclaim the underground and to say, like, fuck off Nazis, and that's something that I often do with punk music, or with the different music that I do. I reclaim it, and I say, like, this is critical because and because I also teach music, so it's part of the learning.
I mean, it's the beautiful thing about music too, right? Is that because it isn't textual, that it is ambiguous what it means.
Absolutely. And we need to have these conversations in the music scene. It's like, okay, what type of music are you doing? What type of people are doing the music? For instance, a huge debate is particularly in the metal scene, for instance.
Absolutely.
That you don't know anymore which bands you should play or not, because there are some people that are really, really racist, but not all of them. So well, and I mean, even though sometimes this can cause tensions or difficulty. Absolutely.
I mean, we've had this conversation about noise and metal and industrial, and I mean, techno can also become very toxic at times, and sometimes not in obvious ways. Sometimes people, people are not obviously neo-fascist, but they may behave badly. They may just...
You have, for instance, a lot of sexism. I mean, I come also from the industrial noise scene, and in my experience as I am pansexual, but as female identified, as for me complex to describe myself, but that's when people see me, they see like a woman, let's say it like that, and it was hard, and it has been sometimes tough to be in environments ruled by heterosexual men that are really in the role of I am a man and this is my terrain, and you girlfriend or woman just sit there and watch and open your legs because here I come, and very violent in some aspects, but these things are, I think it's also, for me, has been always a political situation, or for me, everything is political, and I think often it's a matter of, I love this type of music, and if I don't like the people that are producing it because they maybe someone is really not behaving well, often this type of people that are people that are not happy often. Now I am learning to have a little bit of compassion, but there are also limits, no? How far can we get when people are violent, I have had racist attacks in Berlin, in clubs, for instance.
Yeah.
I have been discriminated for being a person of color.
Yeah.
I have seen other people being discriminated, and which for me, it has been incredibly painful to see it in our communities that's supposed to be, more intelligent people and more kind of tolerant people and more like, and then you see people treating a black person in horrible ways. I have had sometimes people making really hurtful comments that for me is like, where does this come from? What do you see in me? But at the end of the day, and it's just the projections. People project their education, their own happiness, or whatever. But I think these conversations we need to have. And I think also CTM is also a place in which we are having this kind of narratives in which, like, what is racism? What is the meaning of a safe place? Who can be inclusive? It's new times, it's new times, and we have to build the utopia.
Well, and we will have conflicts. I know that we will.
That's part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important, right? That we'll, and this is, to me, it's part of the, not that I complain about it, but it is part of the, I'm always worried. I'm worried in these kind of environments. Actually, I know that there's a conflict coming. And then Hacklab, especially because with the amount of pressure, that at some point in the week, some usually group of people is going to break down. And so you're waiting for it to happen. And you know if it hasn't happened, that means it's due somehow. Your year actually there was a lot. I was surprised by how little conflict there was actually last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
But you know that this is coming. But I think it's so important to have to have some kind of conflicts and some disagreements and misunderstandings, because all of us do come from different perspectives, and yeah, sometimes we just misunderstand one another, and it's really important to find some of those points of tension and talk about them or work through them or whatever.
No, and actually conflict is it's a very healthy place, because through conflict we can really get to know each other. We can also realize and practice self-critique. No, in my case, I have also learned, like, okay, what was my part in it? No, or also sometimes I have learned to really set up boundaries and say, like, here, sorry, but I'm not gonna take this. Or often also I have met people in which there have been disagreements because we have different perspectives. However, I have also learned the maturity to what do you do when you disagree, and maybe 50-50 compromise, And it's beautiful because it's not about not having conflicts and everyone is happy and it's all harmony and the hippie land. That's not true.
No. Yeah, I mean, it also would be kind of boring if that were the case. So, yeah, I mean,
we wouldn't grow as a human being.
Well, I just did this interview with Lafray about. I just love this story that she told me about this program that she's doing at the Willie Mae Rock Camp in New York. And it's part of the reason I like the stories, because it reminds me of moments in the Hacklab. But these are, I think, 8 and 9-year-old girls. They were called the LOL girls. I think they're between 7 and 9, somewhere in there. And they were working in this camp and also working in collaborative environment. And she said they had multiple Fleetwood Mac style breakdowns But the kids worked through it, and they came up with an end result. So that kind of ability at some point to have it's not always a fight with each other, but there's usually some kind of meltdown, or it may be a kind of personal meltdown, right? Like there's just a point where all of us, if we're pushing ourselves the edge, we're just going to go over the edge at some point.
But there is also, I think, the issue of mental health in our culture. Like, I have mentors that always sometimes ask, like, if you're a single parent with a responsibility having children, that means that you have more stress. I need to be aware of that. No? Also, people asking like the class factor. Maybe you have to do 3 jobs, and there are other people that, I don't know, they earn more money, so they have, more freedom in some way.
Yeah.
But also the people dealing with anxiety or depression and all these things. And I think these issues are also important when we work together, because they come out in the Hacklab as well. You can realize like, okay, people living in precarity, or people having like really problems with anxiety and depression, and then you realize, oh, okay, what is the meaning of care? What is how can we handle these situations? Because we all have our mental distress, we all have our problems, and that's what makes us actually human. And very important is also for me to see like the difference between hyper reality and reality, how people protect themselves online, and what happens when you really meet the people. And when you really meet the people, you realize that the vulnerability there going on, and to see and touch and perceive the vulnerability is very important.
Yeah, and there's certainly a danger in our kind of current society of getting the mental health message completely inverted.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was reading this article about this this idea of kind of cutting off toxic people. Now, cutting off some toxic people is a fantastic and absolutely essential idea.
Sometimes it's necessary. Yeah.
But it has kind of gotten expanded to people just sort of cutting off communication with anybody who is providing any difficulty. And of course, if you do that,
that's problematic.
Yeah, it's hugely problematic. I don't know where this point is going, other than
it's going to have an excellent place, and the excellent place is that we cannot cut everyone. That's impossible. And we have to keep some people, and that's why we have to learn also. I mean, there are limits. I have my boundaries. There are behaviors I wouldn't take. And that's a line that I say, this line cannot be crossed. But there are moments, it depends, the reality is complex, no? But it depends also, like, that's what I say, mention the word compassion, because sometimes you realize that maybe the person was under a lot of stress, and in that circumstance, the person just vomit their pain on you because you were just happened to be there. And, and sometimes we need to acknowledge that I always try to give a second chance, and try to work things out, because I am aware, like, if we want to build community, it will be a total contradiction if we could everyone that we don't like. I mean, excuse me, I will live in my island alone. That's not the goal, and I think sometimes we need to also give time and understanding and compassion, and also to trust the flow, and sometimes teach people. Maybe sometimes we just take a break, to say, at the moment I feel uncomfortable with this person, I need to breathe, But later, you open up the conversation, and in my experience, I am also learning to have uncomfortable conversations, send feedback, get feedback, and say, like, okay, your perspective, my perspective, you are right, can we start again? Or at least, if we are going to keep interacting, be respectful. But not necessarily just cutting people off, Not always.
Not
always.
I mean, we know there are some people that you need to, but yeah, I don't know how you articulate the difference between those two situations, but yeah, we know there's some people it's really important that for whatever reason you need to kind of get away from them. It's good to support that, but you need to maintain some amount of conflict if there's going to be any kind of growth.
Absolutely.
Or if you're going to know anyone at all.
Yeah. Makes you grow.
Yeah.
And teach you always something.
Yeah. So maybe that's also why, to bring it back to the music, maybe that's why we enjoy some of these challenging and noisy tracks. I know sometimes the most kind of healing music for me is the stuff that's really aggressive and noisy and,
Absolutely.
and a physical kind of onslaught.
I agree with you. I mean, my anger, I remember when I saw in Berlin for the first time Merzbow from Japan, you know, the king of noise. I mean, for me, it's so healing. It's just like all my anger, frustration, just like, but also like when I became also a noise producer, I realized like after my concerts, there were people coming, schizophrenic people now with a diagnosis, and they were coming and saying like, oh my God, your tracks, your music gave voice to all those voices. And I could have kind of I could relax. And for me, that's fascinating. That whole noise or music or powerful music can also relieve things that sometimes we don't want to be violent, or we don't want to, you know, and but this music helps you to somehow transform that vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got a track for us?
I do.
So we'll say again, for those of you joining, you're listening to Post. I'm Peter Kirn here with Verónica Mota, who is the co-host of the MusicMakers Hacklab this year, was an amazing participant in the Hacklab in our rare May edition 2022, and we'll be playing on the 2nd of February at Berghain Säule, and we'll have all of our Hacklabbers playing at Houtzwei on Sunday, the 5th of February. And then after that, we'll be doing some intensive sleeping. Hopefully. Well, depending on where the after party goes.
Well, I'm going to play you another track that I am working on. It's not yet finished. It's a draft. Maybe it's already finished, maybe not. You can tell me later in your comments. It is industrial EBM, electronic body music. Let's see if you like it.
Yeah, so what you heard at the beginning of this set was Veronica's own unreleased, in-process music. And now what we're listening to, well, we have two sides of how the Hacklab has happened last year and how it will happen last year and this year. Rave Native is Ariel, who is the co-host for the 2022 edition. And here he's playing with Galis. Both of them are Indonesian, and Galis is also I don't know what Galis's title is, but he's basically our production manager for the Hacklab. So it's all one happy family. This is on the amazing label LKW. I hope that they play this again. I really enjoy that duo. I hope they play together again. Yeah. So yeah, Galis and Ariel, we've kind of had this tradition of we have Hacklab participants then become Hacklab co-hosts, which started when we started basically the edition 9 years ago. So we've been doing this for 10 years, and since then we've managed to kind of pull people from inside the lab who've gone through the experience to then become or co-host the following year, so that they've already had the experience of being a participant, which also helps them to empathize with the participants are going through, because it's a pretty stressful experience in some ways, even though it's rewarding. And then we were also lucky to travel a little bit. We traveled to Yogyakarta with CTM Festival in Nusasonic, and then with Nusasonic again to Manila in the Philippines, and some of those folks have come back. We have a more local edition of CTM this year. We were talking about this, looking at the looking at just the lineup. But you know, the Berlin's locals become more and more international, right? The makeup of the city continues to blossom, and we do host people who are refugees and have had to come from other places, and this is also a big part of what makes the city now. So, you know, after all this kind of, Berlin, when I got here, was really caught up in this mythology of what happened in the 90s. I do hope that people look around and pay attention to what's happening in the 2020s, because it's another set of, you know, developments, miracles, tragedies, conflicts, wars that are creating a new city. And I think it's probably, I don't want to say this because I'm not a German person, but at least as my perspective as an outsider is that this is every bit as significant as what happened with the wall coming down. These are other walls coming down and going up.
Yeah, that's a very nice topic, because the first time I came to Germany was 97. That was the first time I saw the first Love Parade, my first raves was actually Germany. And then I moved to Berlin in the early 2000s, and the city has evolved in such fantastic ways. What I have been realizing recently is like there is more people of color. I mean, first were the Gestarbeiter, Turkish people, you know, and but now you see more Afro-American people, you see more people from Iran, of course, Iraq, and
Syria,
and then now you have also with the war in Russia against the Ukraine, you also also have like more people from the Ukraine, also some Russians that left Russia, and you have people coming from different. It's like for me, it's like it used to be very white in Berlin also. I remember I went once to a punk show, and it was fascinating for me because I was the only person of color that was not German. And it was I felt very uncomfortable because I did not speak at that time German, and people were also like looking at me, even though that they were punks, they were also looking at me like, who the heck is this person? No? You do not belong here. I remember very well this concept.
Yeah, there's still some punk bars that you walk into that you'll have that
you're
experience
like, oh my God, white land. But I see like it's changing, it's moving. It's like Berlin became a cultural mecca, and I'm very happy about it. And then you see how is it flourishing, and so much international people moving, and it's fantastic. More Asian people also coming to the city. It's beautiful. I think that's the way it should be. It's globalization, but globalization has also its positive aspects. Migration.
I will post this to my site too, but Veronica has a great podcast or recording of a panel on the punk or origins of punk in Mexico, and how that intersects with BIPOC identity, and it's really a great listen. I don't know if you brought any of that music with you today.
No, actually, I didn't. But
we've got some other stuff, but
yes,
but we should do an episode just devoted to that even.
Yeah, because it's also very, very, that's also that I am very thankful for being here, because it's also, CTM is giving voices to the Asian diaspora, to BIPOC people, and it's very important that we create democracy, and that's how you create it. Like, we sit down and we have to, in my case, often I give conferences around music, technology, philosophy and things, science fiction and futurism and things, and one of them is always that to rewrite the history of music from a BIPOC perspective, which is like, okay, from where I come from, what is the story there, or also deconstructing the history of music that we normally learn, in which there is always these white guys that discover rock and roll when actually it was a black Afro woman who is the grandmother of punk and rock, and nobody knows.
Speaking of Willie Mae,
things like that are fundamental, and
that's they're not even debatable, right? I mean, if you if you care about music and you want to get the story right, then this is going to be the story you need to dig into.
This is how we make stories. We have to listen to other perspectives from other countries, from countries that normally we don't listen to, and and today through people learning different languages and things, like we can say like, well, this is another perspective, and from our perspective, this is the story of music. It's completely different.
Yeah. Well, I feel really grateful for the all of that. Just like I feel grateful to have gotten to perform Bach and things, and if you love music, then you will also absolutely love the experience of getting to know other folks and really getting to explore histories that maybe were suppressed and that you didn't know, and really to understand the roots of the music that you love. Of course, this is a gift that we get. I feel really lucky that we have all that access.
No, and for me, when I have given workshops on music, I always tell to my students, because particularly young people, I don't want to generalize, but it has been my experience that I have students that are very young and they think they discovered techno, or they think they discovered avant-garde music, and then you ask them like, what's the story that and they don't know their ancestors, and that's fundamental. That for me, education is fundamental in our circles, to say like problematizing GABA music, for instance, and seeing like different perspectives, and not just playing the beats, but also knowing the story behind the gender that you play, who play it. It's not about who play it first, but just knowing how things change through time and what kind of touch. But because really sometimes people think that they discover a gender, and then you realize, but darling, you are talking from, I don't know, the 90s. Do you know what happened in the 20s or 30s or 50s or 60s? So yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's travel to Mexico anyway. I want to play a track by Leslie Garcia. So Leslie is actually a special Leslie has a kind of special role in the MusicMakers Hacklab history, because she was the one person who. So we're really grateful for the support that we had from Goethe Institute and this New Sonic project, and that's what allowed us to evolve these collaborations in Indonesia and in the Philippines, and around this whole project, which also involves some other stuff with CTM. And the first time that Lintang and Andreas and the crew came from Yogyakarta, they saw some of the stuff that we were doing with Hacklab and said, "Oh, well, this is what we've been doing this for years, right? This is our default model, to kind of be open and let people hack stuff and punk and experiment and have it be a kind of laboratory." Leslie Garcia really and her partner Paloma and this Interspecifics collective that they're operating now out of Mexico City was the first to really take the concept and just run with it on their own. So Leslie had an edition in Tijuana that she organized entirely by herself. Interspecifics ran an event in Mexico City a second time, also on their own, and so they really ran with the MusicMakers Hacklab notion. Even just seeing the title and got it, and they just did it on their own. Eventually did it with Mutec Mexico. But Leslie's also just an amazing artist, and the other advantage of getting to meet folks is I don't know, I was a pretty weird person growing up. I mean, I love where I came from, and it's definitely a big part of who I am. But at the same time, there's a big part of who I am that maybe didn't fit in there. So, I'm really, really happy for everybody from the scene in Baja and Tijuana and Mexico City that, you feel really lucky when you get to meet kindred spirits that come from another background, and you just, love what they're doing right away. So let's listen to her track. So she's doing this project as Micro Ohm, which is her kind of techno solo track. She's also done a ton of stuff as Interspecifics in this kind of collective context. But let's listen to this one, also because I like the title, once I put up the right fader.
Very serious.
Well, good afternoon to everybody on the chat. It's like, assuming that's Zoe McPherson. Hi, Zoe. Ryan, Kyle, Alex, thanks so much. Post everything is exactly the idea. This is a track by Priestess. Priestess is not part of CTM Festival, so we're mixing it up a little bit. Regular Refuge listeners may have heard she was on a few weeks ago, a special here on Refuge. But we got to work together for Urvakan Festival from Armenia. Helen taught an amazing live coding workshop in an environment called Orca. And as you can hear, she's making amazing productions too, using her live coding techniques. So we started this set with Micro-Ohm. The track is Dislocación del Tiempo. I love that title. It's on Low Mute. Low Mute, this excellent project, also from Mexico. So Leslie was a three-time, I think, co-host of MusicMakers Hacklab and came out to Berlin once to do it with us here. I came out to Mexico City and did it with her and with Interspecifics there. After that was Miri Kat. Miri is another live coder, originally coming from Iran. She's now based in the UK. You can find that release from Miri on my label on Establishment. And wow, it's good. I really, really appreciate that one. People seem to be discovering it here and there. Yeah, this one comes from Lintang, also a MusicMakers Hacklab co-host in Yogyakarta and in Berlin. And we got to play together with Andreas, our other Indonesian co-host. All the three of us played together in Säule. This was 2019. But this is the project Derau, and the track is Bentang. And I think that what we're hearing also came out of one of Lintang's workshops. So I think it was also a collaborative, collaborative process, DIY process. I need to talk to him more about this one. There's a nice little EP if you look it up, full of we hear some like Javanese instruments mixed with some electronics and other sounds. So we mixed into Johanna Vremen Moser, who will be one of our input speakers on Monday the 30th, making all kinds of beautiful and deeply reflective electronic creations. She was also an artist participant in the Hacklab in 2019. This is documentation of a live performance, a wonderful series called Vier Fakultät. And you can pick up all these things on Bandcamp and surprise someone on the other end that you've purchased some beautiful digital music. So this is brand new, not even quite out yet. This is the infamous pre-order premiere track on Bandcamp. But this is from the amazing label Pointless Geometry. And this is the duo Opla, or OPLA. It's a Polish duo, and they're reinterpreting traditional Polish dances. So that album is GTI, and the track is YPN. I feel like an air traffic controller calling it out, but yeah, what a beautiful couple of tracks out now, and I can't wait for this one to come out. So next up, I'm going to play one from Lumis. Hang on, try again. I'm going to play one from Lumisokia. And this duo, the materials for this release actually came from, I think that may have been our first Hacklab. It was our first or second Hacklab, 2013 or 2014. And there was this wonderful exhibition of early Soviet percussion instruments that came into the exhibition for CTM, and they went and sampled them. And those samples they used in, Andrea used in his Hacklab group, and then somehow this project grew out of it. I think because those samples are now in this wonderful track titled Rhythmicon. Yeah, that's a fun one. So again, that's Lumisokia from a few years back. Oh, you can get all this stuff.
I really like that track.
Yeah. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you. We should have you back and do more. Talk about Mexican punk.
We should do that. I am also very thankful. It was very beautiful. I send greetings to everyone who is listening now, and thank you, Peter, and thank you, CTM, for building up a family here in Berlin. It's beautiful, the work you are doing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will see folks starting at the Vorspiel opening tomorrow, Friday, because even before the festival, there's Vorspiel. So we'll see you there and at the after party, and then on to CTM. Come see us on Monday, the 30th at Silent Green. We have inputs, talk program. It's always great to get the discourse portion. Come again. I mean, come to everything, but come if you can. Come on the 2nd of February to Berghain Säule. You'll find us there and you get to hear Veronica live as Espectra Negra. And then come on Sunday, 4 p.m. to Haut 2 for whatever the Hacklab has cooked up this year. Well, so thanks to Refuge Worldwide. I did, again, like I did last time, accidentally leave my mic on once, but I try to do that in order for them to invite me back so that I hopefully learn the next time. So it's a strategy. I'm going to go out with this is a track by Stephanie Egedy, and she's playing an all bass set on the Tuesday, the first program in Berghain that week. So that will be all on a subwoofer. And we got to do that together in Leipzig and heard her at Tresor at Globus. So I'm really excited to hear what that sounds like on the Berghain sound system. So come for that sub-bass frequency onslaught, and we'll see you there. But this is an older track from her called Classic Change, a WoW remix. Play. If I can figure out how to play it. I was doing this before. There we go.